I'm Butch Stearns. I'm here with Steve Wardell, who's the VP of Marketing of Activate Network. Steve, we're at your summit. You worked hard on this, you and your staff and all the people around this. When you get to an event like this, is there a sense of relief that, there's not much you can do once it comes, right?
It's going wonderfully, and I'm going to be so excited to sleep more when it's over.
Well, congratulations on the success so far. This really has been, at any event, you want to get a bunch of different people in a room talking about what they're passionate about, and you've really accomplished that. I mean, you have some people here that are really thought-provoking, get people thinking about different things. You must be proud of what you guys have accomplished.
We're so excited about our speakers who are real trailblazers in network analysis, and also our audience are the most enthusiastic people in the world about network analysis. So it's really a wonderful event to bring them all together.
Let's talk about network analysis. Let's talk about what Activate Networks does.
Sure. Well, we help our clients find their most valuable customers who they could never find in the past. And we also help them get an X-ray view into how work really gets done in their company so they can address some of the most important issues like innovation, collaboration, leadership, talent management.
So when you say you help companies find their most valuable clients, what are their most valuable clients? I know that's got a long answer, but how do you sum up a most valuable client?
So in the past, the answer was, let's look at the demographics of our customers, and maybe we can get good data about the demographics of our customers. But in the past, companies were never able to say, let's look at our customers' connections to each other. And when you can map those connections to each other, you find out who's influential. And now suddenly, you could roll out a new marketing campaign only to your most influential customers and let them do your selling for you. So now each person is responsible for, each person buys your product themselves, and is responsible for 5 other people buying your product. So suddenly, that act of selling to that one person became an act of selling to 6 people.
So you, tell me if I got it right here, you work with your clients, you work with your customers, and sort of break it up into 2 areas. Looking at your employees and your organizational networks, and then analyzing those and trying to harness the power of that, and also looking at your customer base, your clients, your relationships, and trying to harness the power of that, correct?
Yes, both of these were unmeasured and almost impossible to measure in the past. But today they are measurable, and a lot of companies are getting excellent data on their customers' connections to each other and their employees' connections to each other. And this reveals how things work in a way that wasn't visible and wasn't measured and wasn't understandable before. And there are new capabilities that are evolving, like getting a multiplier effect out of your sales campaign, or like making more innovative teams inside of your company that people didn't understand before and couldn't do before without a network approach.
So I'm a client or potential client, and you're working with me. Where do I begin to analyze, my employees, to analyze my customers and find my best customers?
Well, if you're a marketing professional and you came to us, we would work with you to find the best data sources on your customers' close ties to each other. Sometimes that could be secondary data source driven, so there's transactional data out there we could collect. Sometimes you might have the easy ability to survey your customers. Sometimes this data is actually available to you already in-house and you just haven't noticed it or haven't collected it or haven't used it. Sometimes you can purchase it from commercial data vendors, and so you would then get an idea of the many different communities of your customers after mapping the social networks of them, and who are the influencers and leaders and the central people in those communities. And you'd sell very differently and much more effectively that way. So there's a saying in marketing that half of all marketing dollars are wasted. It's just you never know which half.
Right.
And we can actually help get social influence on your side to market to the most influential people, who then in turn help you market to their influencees. And there's very little wastage on people who are not receptive to your message as a result. So there's a breakthrough on marketing on that side. Now, additionally, it's possible for companies to these days have access to relational data about their employees as well. And so they may discover that they're very heavily siloed and that's not conducive to productivity in their organization. So then they've got to try to figure out, and this was never visible before, but with organizational network analysis, now it's visible, and they can look at these deep, heavy silos across the organization, very common in big companies, and they can say, what can we do to just encourage this boundary-spanning leadership across silos to improve our organizational effectiveness?
And what's a common answer to a problem like that? What can you do?
So there's a couple things. One is that institutionally in many large organizations, there are people who are naturally boundary spanners, and they emerge. You can see them with an organizational network map. And in the past, they were doing this on their own. They were never rewarded for doing this. And they were candidates for burnout because they were overachieving on their own, and it wasn't being rewarded or recognized. So you could support people who are naturally playing the role of boundary spanners. Another thing you could do is you could try to write into departmental descriptions the encouragement of collaboration across boundaries. Part of the reason for the common effect of silos is that people are judged and evaluated and paid ultimately for performing within their department, but they're not judged and paid for helping another department, as an example. And so you can build that, understanding the importance of those networks, you can build that into people's job descriptions for the future.
That's a great point. I mean, I just think of any company I've been with, and what we do at the Pulse now is amongst networks, you really do need a collaboration to work, because you can easily fall in that mentality of, well, that's not my department, so I won't worry about that. And that's counterproductive to getting things done. Let's finish up with...
And in the past, it was never measured. It was never visible.
Right.
But today, it's increasingly very easy to measure it and visualize it, thanks to organizational network analysis, advances in the science, and advances in the ability to collect and view the data.
So social networks for business. Let's talk about what's going on now and what's going to happen next. Everything's happened so quickly. I don't think there's anybody in business now that doesn't acknowledge the presence of social networks, the power of them. There's still the challenge of how to be able to harness that power with what you guys do with your clients. But what is different now? What's going on now with social networks?
We're seeing three megatrends come together that are enabling an average enterprise to actually really utilize these tools for the first time. And the first is advances in the science. So the science now makes network analysis much more valuable today than in the past. There's a lot more we can do. We can assertively say that it's going to work today, whereas in the past it was not as well understood. That's the first factor.
So we're measuring it now. We've put analytics around it.
Yep, or we've with randomized controlled trials, we found that effects are real, that you're getting real benefit.
Okay.
And then the second is the ongoing explosion of the capturing of data. So in the past, data wasn't captured, or it was captured, but it was released like exhaust. Nobody values the exhaust in their car, so they let it go off into the air. And data was captured by companies. They then released it because it cost money to store it, it cost money to analyze it, or whatever. And so we're now starting to see systems in place that just naturally capture this data. And so suddenly when you come across an organization and say, can we use network analytics to help you? The answer is, well, we have this big pile of data. We just haven't looked at it. We don't have the right people to look at it. And the third is the analytical capacity. So some of this analysis would have been possible only at the highest levels of the defense industry, as recently as 5 years ago. You would have needed rooms of supercomputers to do the kind of calculations that are necessary. And today, a mid-sized enterprise can rent time in the cloud to do this at a modest price. And so you've got this convergence of three megatrends that mean that an average company can do this, just like in the 40s, an average company couldn't do simple demographic analysis of its customers, but by the 50s they could. Well, 10 years ago, the average company couldn't do this for its customers, but today, thanks to these trends, it can.
Interesting. Thanks, Steve. Congratulations on a great event.
Well, thank you.
Steve Wardell, he's the VP of Marketing. We're here at the Activate Network Summit 2012.